Hey everyone, this is Derek Luby here in Shanghai with SCIS, and I'm sorry to not be with you this morning. We are not scheduling our cross-campus meetings at the right time, so I wanted to share this short video update with you on the ACAMIS accreditation project that a few of us in the heads group have been working on, just to bring it some closure and to share with you some of the results that we've seen. So we worked in a platform called Huddle Up Learning, and you can see here we had 11 of us in the group, and the group met from January 31st to April 6th. Actually, we didn't meet at all, but we worked on this project during the time. And the goal of the project was to share accreditation strategies. We were lucky enough to be joined by a WASC representative, Dawn Rock, and Dawn provided feedback along the way. You can kind of see her down here. Clearly, she didn't do any work, but she did provide us feedback along the way. And so here's how the project kind of worked. Obviously, we were able to access content that Dawn had shared with us, like the Focus on Learning guide, and in this case, a video. But the main point of the project was that we were using that content to answer questions which Dawn had structured, and we were sharing our solutions. So the two questions that we addressed over this time period were, how are you organized for your self-study? In other words, what kind of teams does your school break into, and how does each school do that? And the second question involved, how do you involve all your constituents, and basically sharing a timeline or a plan for how you're going to carry out the self-study. And as our team here of the cohort shared their solutions to these questions, they were represented by these check marks. And within the feedback hub, we could then access each other's answers. And throughout it all, Dawn and others gave peer feedback. So we could open up, for instance, an answer here. And so to keep answers confidential, I'll share the rest in a screenshot, but you can see that we had shared, for instance, we could see Dawn's questions, and we could share our response here, sometimes with a link or an attachment or whatever we wished. And with that, we would receive feedback. We could receive open feedback all the time from our peers. And then at a later submission, for instance, we could receive quantitative feedback from our peers according to a rubric which Dawn had crafted to kind of help us think about top priorities. And so in terms of conclusions, I wanted to share a few takeaways on the collaboration side and a few takeaways on the accreditation side. Initially, from a collaboration standpoint, we tried to approach this by minimizing our meetings, which was actually pretty well done. We didn't meet at all, so this entire project was asynchronous, and all the collaboration you see took place without any real face-to-face or virtual meetings. We were trying to leverage the idea that we learn best by actually doing the action, by sharing our solution. And when we share together, we can learn from each other's solutions and feedback. And hopefully, from a collaboration standpoint, the entire process is transparent and archived, and we can all access this when needed, including you all after this project. If you did not participate, we're going to share a link so that you can take part in this, or at least see some of the resources that were shared by both members and by Dawn herself, and see some of the solutions that your colleagues put forward. In terms of accreditation, there were a few takeaways for sure from the solutions that were shared, so I think everybody found it helpful from that standpoint. The first was just that context matters, and by that I mean school context, the size of your school, the goals your school has, and kind of how mature your school is. Those were big factors in how different schools structured their self-study and their accreditation process. We definitely felt that there was a lot of thought that needed to be given to teams. We all did a pretty solid job, I think, of including including our faculty. And where sometimes the feedback came in where we needed more support was at what stages were we including students or parents or staff in this. And so that was a good kind of eye-opening exercise. And certainly there's an importance to planning the process, as I think it goes without saying, but we all have a lot of teams and we need to kind of structure those teams around specific meetings and specific goals that occurred during the self-study. And the last thing, which was a really nice takeaway, was to the greatest degree possible, how can we use our existing structures that are in our school, the current grade level teams and department heads, et cetera, administrative meetings that take place? Because the goal of the accreditation process is hopefully not to create something new that happens for a short term, but to kind of find the structures that can go through these three aspects down here, which are part of the self-study, but also hopefully should be part of the way we're operating school on a regular basis. And that's to look at data and identify our needs, to create a plan of action around that, and then to have a transparent way to get everybody involved in implementing that plan, so that then again there is data and we come back to step one. So I wanted to end by just giving a big shout out and thank you to Dawn Rock at WASC, who helped provide feedback on the way. She didn't have to do that. It was really cool of her to do that. And also a big thank you to Greg, who really supported us all throughout this process and has certainly supported me. We can give access to this project for the heads that are in this PeerSphere group, and we'll put those login credentials on PeerSphere, or if you wish to contact me, Derek Luby, you can do that as well. And lastly, I'll put a shameless plug in because Greg and I are presenting the results of this project at the ACAMIS Leadership Conference in Hangzhou. So if you're heading to Hangzhou, we hope to see you there. Thanks everyone for your collaboration along the way, and hope the rest of your year goes well.